And one. Okay, the recording is on. So, welcome to the people who are watching the video as well. And of course, welcome to those who are here right now. Um, Today is, March, let me see, March 26th. And we're talking about, the differences we have in American English and British English. Now, of course, that is a very, very big topic. In reality, if we do actually talk about it in detail, it may, be longer than, like, I don't know, 5 hours or 6 hours. Um, but for now, we're not doing that. We're just going to give you a brief, comparative, let's say, journey. We're just going through some of the biggest differences that you may have in American English and British English. And hopefully, we will be able to answer some questions, that, arise while we're talking. So, yeah. So before we continue, before we do anything else, if you wish to talk about this, if you wish to talk about this topic, American English versus British English, do raise your hand and tell us what do you know. Like, very briefly, tell us which one you like, or if you know any differences or not. Um, how much do you have information? So that's basically what we need. Very good. Okay, listening to Aziza. Go on, Aziza.
Hello again. I don't have any more information, but if I want to talk about some information about this topic about British English and American English. So the big or the first difference is that American English or American native speaker always they pronounce or very seriously, but in British English we don't pronounce or actually. And the other differences, I think some words are different. Like if we want to talk about supports, so in American English we say soccer, but in British English we say football. And any other differences in verbs or about words, it is different. The information is that. I hope it be useful and it's enough. Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing, Aziza. Very, very nice. Mabuba, tell us what do you think?
Hello, guys. Hello, Fariduna. I hope you're doing well and great. So I don't have a lot of information about the British and I mean like the American, but for me it's kind of like piece of cake to like change my pronunciation in a minute because I find it a trick because whenever I want to like speak in American, I just want to speak from like in front of my mouth. But then whenever I want to like speak like British and British accent with my friends and especially with my brother wife, and then I just speak with my like down and down and down area of my mouth, and it's kind of like really interesting for me. And yeah, and also in British accent, it's kind of like really hard to understand what other ones are saying to us or what they are telling. And I find it really hard sometimes, but with practice, I think everything gonna be okay. And yeah, that was all I think I know. And the most interesting thing that I can remember barely, but the first thing that I have learned in British accent, it was like the bowl of water. It was really interesting for me, and I cannot like forget this one. And yeah, that was all I think.
Very good. Very, very nice. Mabuba, thank you very much. Gulafruz, you had a question about how long the session is. The session is going to be about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So, it's a pretty, pretty short webinar. Okay, so we have some more. Let's listen to all of them because, as I mentioned, the content we have to cover is not that much. So we can do it very quickly. It's better to hear what you guys think. First, Ruya Rahimi.
Hello, sir. I hope you're fine and doing well. As I know about the British and the difference between American English and British languages, that there are some difference about the pronunciation, vocabulary, and spelling. Like in American English, we say apartment, but in British language, we say flat. Some of other words like this. And about myself, I like the American English the most because it's easy than I think the British language, and most of the people in the world are using American English right now. So that's why. Thank you so much.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you very much. Gulafru is saying every night be the same time. Uh, Gulafruz, we have mentioned this already, I think, in the form registration and in the text as well. It's a one night webinar. It's an English club. Um, it's not a class, you know. We do have classes at UC. If at the end, of course, if you guys wish to join, just send me a message and we can process some paperwork and hopefully we will create classes for you guys. But this is not an actual class. This is just a one night webinar. Okay, so it's just for this night only. In the future, of course, we do have more English clubs coming soon, but I mean they're just clubs. They're not classes actually. Okay. So very nice listening to Muqaddam. Muqaddam, tell us.
Okay, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you all be fine and doing great. So what I think about the American and British English is that American and British English, both of them, they have some differences as our friends mentioned in spelling, in pronunciation, even, and also in grammar and vocabulary. I think they're different, and some spelling like we have some words in spelling like in while writing traveling. In American English, we write like TRAVELING, but in British English, actually, we're writing the L, or we double the L and then we add ing. So that's the difference. And also in pronunciation, like we have some pronunciations that are different in American English and British English, the same as vocabulary, as our friends mentioned, department and these things, but also like elevator that in British English, the Britain people call that lift, and some other words like track in American English that British English people just say that lorry. And about the grammar, so we have some differences in grammar as well. Like in American English, it's more common to say gotten, but in British English, as I have seen in many texts, in many books, and movies and these things, so they're saying got, not gotten. And yeah, this was all from my side.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you, Muqaddam. Very nice. Suhaila Karimi, tell us what do you think?
Yes, thank you. First of all, hello and good night for everyone. Hope all of you doing well and be healthy. As other mentioned, uh, about the American English and British English. Firstly, I just wanted to say that I myself I love American English accent because it is like beautiful to pronounce, and it gives some sense of, like, I can say it's really nice. And there are some differences among these two, like British English and American English. First, we can say in pronunciation, like in American English, for example, the R sound is pronounced clearly in words like car or heart, but in British English, it is like we don't often like pronounce it, or we can say it is silent, like we can say call or something like that. And another the differences in vocabulary, like in American they say apartment, but in British they say it like flat. And also another difference can be in the spelling.
Mm-hmm. Guys, do you hear your friend? Do you hear your friend Karimi? Ah, I think bad internet or something. But yeah, we did get most of what she said, and that's really amazing. You know that you guys have this much information. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next people as well, and then we will continue. Behishta, tell us. I hope I'm reading your name right, Behishta.
Yes, hello, and I hope doing all really well. American English and British English are two major varieties of the English language, each with distinct difference in spelling, vocabulary, pronunciation, and even grammar. For example, these spelling differences, many words in American English have simple fade spellings compared to British English. And the vocabulary differences are certain words are completely different in American English and British English.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. Thank you, Bahishta. Zuhal Razai, tell us.
Hello, sir, to all. And about about difference between British English and American English, I want to say that there are several key differences between British and American English. But in terms of grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, spelling, as our friend mentioned, we have many differences. But one of the interesting thing for me in these differences is about date and time formals. In British, first of all, we use date. After that, we use month and also the year. And in American, we use month, day after that year. And it's something interesting for me, and I want to share with you. Thanks.
That's an amazing one. That's a really good one, Zohal, and that's something that I've actually forgotten to add in the presentation. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that. I think separately as well, which is really good. The date, or at least the dating system. Just remember that. Sarah, tell us, Ibrahimi.
Hello to everyone. I hope all of you doing well. Thank you so much for giving the chance to speak. Uh, and my point of view, when we talk about the American English versus British English, we are comparing two variations of the same language with unique traits that give their stack flavor. And while both are based on the same language, I mean English, there are differences in several important aspects such as spelling, vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and even punctuation. Here's I learned something from one of the reading book club that I was in there with the British girl. She just mentioned and say us about their difference, their English difference. Like in a spelling, they don't use like a realize. We use Z in it, but they use S in it. And also in a like a vocabulary difference, they don't say track, they say lorry and these kind of things.
Yeah, exactly, Sarah. Very nice. And Gulaf Rose, tell us.
First of all, hello and good evening to everyone, and thanks for letting me to speech. I'd like to say something about what is the difference between British English and American English. Are in spelling, vocabulary, grammar, punctuations. For example, in spelling, in British English, use some sometimes use OU in words like color, favor, honor. In American English, use or in same words like color, favor, honor. And I really like American English due to it's very amazing to me.
Hmm. Very good. Gulaf Rose, very nice. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for sharing your opinions about American English and British English. So basically, what you guys mentioned, they're right, and you know, I don't really think we're gonna need this session here because I'm just gonna repeat what you guys said right now. However, we are gonna go through it a little bit. So if there are any things that you may have questions about, I do hope that you are gonna ask that. And I myself, so I'm a, you could say, a firm believer in American English. I do love it. I think it's the one that is superior, but do not just take my word for it. You listen and think which one you like, and judge it based on your own circumstances and preferences. So the one that you think is better, you can choose it. And I do hope that my content doesn't seem biased. I am gonna try to be as neutral as possible here and mention the good points of both sides. But of course, if I do sound a little biased toward American English, that is because I am a little biased. Okay, so what is American English versus British English presentation about? It is a brief comparative exploration. So we're just going to go through the different differences we have, let's say, between these two. And of course, the subtitle of the entire webinar is Understanding the World's Two Major English Varieties. Now, as you can see, we're here, specifying the fact that it's the world's two major English varieties. That is because English has many varieties. Okay, some of the ones that are very, very common, but at least they're not as big as these two. That's why we're not really talking about them. They are Canadian English. You have Australian English. You have, English from New Zealand. You have now Indian English, which is also very, very common. A Scottish accent of the English language, and many, many more. Since English has been, the global language for about 50 to 60 years now, I think. So that one, there's a comment. The slide is too zoomed in. Really? How much of it do you see right now? Do you just see the title?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can
that is
see just the
okay. Yeah,
title.
I've actually kept that. Okay, I haven't gone to the other one, so don't worry. When we go, you're gonna see it. Yeah, this is supposed to be like that. Okay, so. Yeah, so as I mentioned, these two are the world's biggest English varieties. And when we say, so yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, English has been, as I said, the global language for about 50 to 60 years now. So that does mean that, since it's become such a big language, it also will have many varieties, because different, countries are going to keep using English, and they're going to, have it as the official language of the government, and all of these things will make their English, and I'm going to use this word their English, because the English then becomes unique to them. The English becomes special to that specific country. So that country is going to have its own English language, or at least its own English language variety. Right now, at least in the past, it wasn't, but right now, Indian English is one of the common ones as well in the world, because of two things. Number one, English, is one of the kind of official languages in India right now, and two, because they have such a big population. Since they have such a big population, and they have accepted English as an official language, so that does become an official English variety as well. In Afghanistan, for example, it's not an official language, and of course, the population of Afghanistan is nowhere near of that of Indian, population, or at least the Indian country itself. So we cannot really say that Afghan English is an English variety, but it's not a standard one, at least you could say. So these are some points that you should know before we start. And one more point, everyone, is about the American English itself. When we say American English, what we're actually talking about is U.S. English, United States English. Okay, we're not talking about the entire continent. The entire continent of America does have different accents because they have different countries, so that will be different. There are some people actually in the world right now who don't like this word being used. When people say that, this is American English, they actually get upset, and they say, like, why do you call this American English? This is just for one country. So if it's just for one country, it's better to say US English. So I'm going to keep to the standard now. I'm just going to call it American English, but you understand that I'm talking about the US English, English for the United States of America. Okay, so these are some points that you should know. Let's continue, everyone, and start with the first difference. I do hope you can see it, guys. So the first difference that we're talking about is in spelling. So there are key differences in spelling. I don't think, I'm not sure if I've included all of the differences that we have, at least all of the different types of spelling rules and patterns we have in these two English varieties. But these three are the most common ones. The first one is the one that your friend, I believe Gulafruz also mentioned, the having the O and the OU case. Okay, so American English does try to have much simplified, or at least more simplified variations when it comes to spelling. So they remove the U when you don't really need it. So they just wrote it as COLOR, reading out or spelling out color. And British English spells color differently. They just add a U at the end as well. So COLOUR. Yeah. Another difference that we have in here is the IS and the IZ ending, the suffix ending we have. I think this one was mentioned again by one of your friends. I forgot which one specifically, but one of them did mention this difference, where she had a friend, I think, a British, friend, who told her about the word realize. So that is the same case in here. We're talking about the word organization. So this word organization in American English is spelled with an IZ, while in British English it is spelled with an IS. Okay, pronunciation is different, but it's not really about the the IS and the IZ. It's more about the one that comes before it. So we're gonna talk about that in the next slide, you could say. But right now, if I say it in American English, we say organization, ization, but British people say organization, the kind of like an organization. They have an I sound. Okay, so that is a small difference that we do have in terms of pronunciation for these words as well. But this is only for this word, organization. So it doesn't really apply for realize. In American and in British, the word realize is again realize. Okay, the next difference is for the word center, or you could say center, depending on which regional accent of American English you're going to use. Because we are talking about the world's two major English varieties, but as you know, since the US and the UK, like these two are very big countries, they have, like a lot of people, they have a big and diverse population. They are going to have different versions of the English language as well, or at least the accent wise, you could say. So in North American, English accent, they don't really pronounce the T that comes after an N. Normally, they just say it like without it. So they say center instead of center. They say internet instead of internet, and international instead of international. So these are some small differences that you can remember while we're talking. So in terms of spelling, coming to the actual thing we have on the slide, in American English, as you can see, the sounds that are ending is like the sound, center or theater, all of these words. They just take ER. Like that's it. They just take what? ER. But in British English, that is actually kind of funny. So they change it. They don't write ER, they write RE. Okay? So they write center like CENTRE. And same goes for, for theater. They write it like THEATRE instead of THEATER. So these are some more differences we have as well. Any questions in this slide, guys? Okay. Very good. Very good. Yes. Who is that? I think we have some hands. Let's listen to them quickly. Bibi Hadisa, tell us.
Yes, sir. About organization in British, can you pronounce it again?
Of course, of course. Yeah, in British English, we pronounce it. And please remember, I'm not an expert on the British English accent, so I'm not gonna, comment a lot on it. But what I do know is that this pronunciation that I'm gonna use, and the pronunciation that you guys normally hear on dictionaries and these things, that is called the RP, or received pronunciation. Another name that it goes by is the QE, or the Queen's English. And that is the standard one that you see like on BBC and these kind of places. So they pronounce it like organization. Oh, again, the R story is there. So one of your friends did mention that. We don't really say the R in at least the RP accent, the received pronunciation accent in British English. So they just say it as organization. Organization. Okay. But in American, we do say it, so we're gonna pronounce like or, and then we say organization, organization, not ganization, but ganization. This is much more common in American English. Okay, and Mabuba, what is your question?
I just feel a little bit like curious to know where we can like pronounce R as a O. I mean, like, it has any cherry background, or no, it is what it is. Like in here in center, you say like after N, and whenever we have T, we cannot pronounce it. So how about the R? It has any rule, specific rule, or no? Like whenever we have R, we're just like pronouncing O.
Uh-huh. Nice one, nice one. In British English, I think you mean.
Yeah, I mean like in British.
Yeah, in British English, of course, we do have the rules as to why, or at least how we can do that. So if R is the one beginning your word, we normally, not normally, we have to say it. So it's kind of like the word restaurant, some students, when they first hear about British English, and when they try to, of course, imitate British English speakers, and when we say that, we don't say the R in British English, they just, remove the R completely. So they say like the word restaurant as yestra, something like that, so they don't say the R, but that's wrong. We have to say it at that time, since it's the beginning of the word. Or another point that you can remember is that before R, if you have a consonant, you're gonna have to say it. That's another small pattern we have. But normally, when you don't say it, is when R is following a vowel sound. Okay, so in this case, you have a vowel sound like at the beginning of the word organization. O is a vowel sound, and you have an R after it. So in here, British English does allow you to not say the R, basically. So that is, I believe that that might be the only time that you can do it. But, of course, more examples that come to us, we might be able to formulate a better rule. But for now, just remember like this. If you have an R and before the R you have a vowel sound, there's a big chance that in British English you don't pronounce it. You don't pronounce the R. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Most welcome, dear. And Ruya, do you have a question?
Sir, we want to write in British language, and how to find out that in the words like center or versus center, how we will find out that we have to write R before E, like as we did here. Is it just for one word center, or we will do it to other words too?
Hmm. Yeah. So I did get the last part of your question very well. I do hope that it was the same. I mean, for the beginning of the question as well. I think your question was, um, is this rule just for the word center, or is this rule going to apply to other words as well? It does apply to
Yeah.
other words as well. It does. Not all of them, though. I mean, not every word that ends in er. Like, for example, the word teacher ends in er, but that one is the same in British and in American English. Same spelling in both. But like the word okay, water, that's a good example, Zahal, but yeah, that's one that we again don't change. Water, in terms of spelling, is the same in British and in American English. Another difference, another word that also uses this, difference is the word theater, as I mentioned before. This one. I hope you can see it in the chat.
Yeah.
Theater in American is ER, but in British it's RE at the end, so theater. And there could be some more examples, 100%. There, it's not just two of them, okay? There are more, but right
Okay.
now, two of them come to mind. Did
Okay,
you
sir.
have?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really nice. So again, at the end, if you guys need, because you guys are right now in WhatsApp, in the group, so I'm gonna share some more content as well, because that's why we created the group. We're gonna share some PDFs and some more material that you can build on if you wish to continue learning about the differences. Okay, Rayhana Azizi.
Hello, dear teacher, and I hope you are doing well. My question is that when we want to pass a test, English test, like the IELTS or TOEFL, they play audio like the from the American English and British English. How we can know about the difference of that languages, and especially about the meaning, as you know that we are an Afghan, and we remember the some words and about their meanings, so we must remember the vocabulary, or we must know about the rules of British language and English language.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Rayhana. I'm gonna try to answer it as quick as possible, because it's not related to this slide, but again, a lovely question. I do like it. So, in terms of which one you should use on a standardized tests such as IELTS and TOEFL, or Duolingo English language test, or the PTE, the Pearson English language test, or any of them. Well, there are differences that we should be aware of. 100%, we all know that IELTS is a test made by, anyone knows, Cambridge University, and Cambridge University is a British university. So Cambridge University makes IELTS, and of course IELTS is following more of a British English style in their writing and in everything. TOEFL, on the other hand, is from another company called ETS, or Educational Testing Service, and that one is an American company. So that one, of course, is going to use American English more in their instructions, in their writings, and those kind of things. But coming to the student, so you as a student, what are you going to use? Well, there are two different instances where you have to think about this. One is of course about the listening. So the listening is something really, really nice, and IELTS and TOEFL and all the other big players in the testing world, they know that students, like they don't have enough knowledge sometimes about the difference between these two big English varieties and the other ones, so they mix everything. Okay, they're going to mix everything. One listening may be British, one listening may be American, one listening is Australian, one listening is Canadian, another is Indian. Sometimes nowadays we do have Indian English audio listenings as well in IELTS and TOEFL. But the only difference is that since IELTS is a British test, it will have more British listening, and since TOEFL is an American test, it will have more American listening. But that doesn't mean that you will not hear the other ones. 100% you will hear the other ones as well. In terms of, as I mentioned, so there are two big instances where you have to remember the differences. Is about the next one, at least, is about writing. So when you're writing, which one should you use? So when you're writing, guys, that one is not really a big problem. If you are an American English user and you go and take the IELTS test, it's not a big problem. You just go and take the IELTS, and in your writing you use all the American rules. That's okay. They understand that you're following the American English, and they're not going to have any problems with that. But there is one problem. This one, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure what they will do, because IELTS and TOEFL, they have their own, certified experts who make the test. No, I'm not talking about trainers. We have trainers everywhere in Afghanistan and in other countries as well. I'm talking about the ones who make the test, the ones who grade the test at the end. So the ones who work for Cambridge University, the ones who work for the ETS or Educational Testing Service. They may have difference in opinions. But my suggestion for you is when you're writing, please try not to mix it. Okay? So, as an example, if in your essay you're writing the word organization and you're writing the word color, make sure that you follow the same, spelling rules for both. Okay? So, if you're going to write color without the U, don't use the IS version for organization, because that will signal to the person that you're mixing American and British. It may not really affect your score that much, but as a teacher myself, if I see that in a student, that is a mistake for me. That is something that I have to talk with the student, and I will try to fix that. So that is a small tip that I have to say. But in terms of which one you use, to be honest, no problem. You can use American in IELTS, you can use British in TOEFL, no worries. Yeah, that is really good. And Bahishta has one more question, then we're gonna continue, or at least jump to the next slides. Go on, Bahishta.
Uh, okay, my question is the British accent actually older than the American accent, or do Americans speak in a way that is closer to older forms of English?
Now that is an amazing question, Bahishta, because the idea that I have, I do hope it is supported, because I did remember reading it one time. And we're going to talk about it in this slide as well. Sorry, not in this one, in the next slide when it comes to pronunciation differences. But in my idea, American English, the accent, okay, and I will talk about accent and dialect, how they're different, but the accent of American English is older, okay? The accent of American English is older than British English, or at least is closer to the old version of English, and we're gonna talk about that. So yeah, to answer your question, in my idea, I'm gonna preface this one by saying in my idea, because to be honest, I don't have the source right now, but if I can find the source again, I'm gonna share it in WhatsApp. But in my idea, American English accent is older than the current British accent. Okay, and we're gonna say why. Okay, for now, let's continue, everyone. Come to the next slide. The next slide is vocabulary variations. So how are some words different? And again, some of these examples have been given by your friends. The first one was given by your friend Suhaila Karimi. She talked about the difference in the word apartment. Now, the word apartment is the word that we use in American English, and it's, of course, it talks about you could say one area of living for one family, typically. So one building has many apartments inside. On the other hand, in British English, they don't really use the word apartment, or at least they didn't use apartment very much. Nowadays they do, and we're going to talk about cultural differences at the end, because American English has a very, very big cultural impact, you could say, on the entire world, to be honest. So right now, with American English, having this big impact on the world, even some British people nowadays don't use the word flat anymore. They use the word apartment. So we're going to talk about that. But specifically speaking, flat is British for the word apartment in American. Okay. Another difference is the word cookie. Now, cookie is the word in American English, and biscuit is the word for cookie again, but in British English. Now, this is a kind of a funny difference, because many people in Afghanistan, at least, they think that cookie is different from biscuit, but it's not, okay? The reason we think that is because we think that biscuit is the one that we buy from the stores and shops, and cookie is not like that. So one of the common ones is Prince. I know you've heard of it, the Prince biscuit. Now, the Prince biscuit, if you go to the US, that is called a cookie That is actually called a cookie. So remember, cookie is American, biscuit is British. That's it. And the last one is the difference in the word truck. Truck is American, and lorry, remember here, guys, lorry, this is British. Now, coming to one of the questions you guys had at the beginning, do we pronounce the R? Do we not pronounce the R anytime we want? Well, in here you do. Okay, and even before the R, we have we kind of have you could say a vowel. So technically it should work, right? But not really, because after the R, now you have another vowel sound. So when the R is sandwiched between two vowel sounds, again, you cannot remove the R in British English. You have to say it. So pronouncing this like lowy, that is wrong. You have to say lorry, even in British English. Okay, so truck and lorry, cookie and biscuit, apartment and flat. There is something else that I do have to mention, guys, but we're going to talk about it more in the cultural, impact slide. It's about how much British English has influenced many countries, including our own, including Afghanistan. So if you, of course, are a person who has good knowledge of the national language, and which is, I believe, Dari or Persian, you understand that we use the word lori, when we talk about a truck. And that is because it is actually an English word. It came when the Great Britain, or at least UK of today, but the Great Britain of the past, when they were trying to basically conquer the world. They were trying to take over every country in the world, so they came to Afghanistan as well, and the impact of their occupation, at least you could say, is still present on the country. Okay, so the word like lorry, the word like biscuit, we still use it, and they are from the British English. Okay, so any quick questions about this slide specifically, about vocabulary differences? Okay. So let's continue, guys. Let's go to the next one. Where's the next one? Okay, this is the next one. The next one is pronunciation distinctions, or differences in how they speak. Now, I did mention that I'm going to talk about the difference in dialect and accent as well. So let me do that quickly. I'm going to put a sticky note here. Okay, so accent and dialect. Okay, now, of course, this again does require a very, very long session. If we do have time, it would be better to talk about it for like maybe an hour or two, but we don't have enough time. So I'm going to try to keep it brief. An accent, or accent at least, is the way the language is spoken, or you could say, or you could say pronounced. Okay, that's it. And dialect is the way the language is formed. I gotta say, like, formed, and then inside parentheses, I'm gonna say that is grammar and other vocabulary differences. Okay, so that is a dialect difference, you could say, and accent is the way it is spoken. Now, so when we're talking about pronunciation differences, we are talking about accent differences, the way the language is different in terms of pronunciation. So that is accent. An example is here. So of course, I think all of you know this one, the word water. In American English, we pronounce it like water, but in British English, the RP accent, at least the received pronunciation accent, they pronounce it like water. Water. We do have the Cockney accent in British English as well, where they pronounce it like water. They use a glottal stop instead of the T, so that one is also pretty nice. So these differences are all accent related. The other difference that we talked, like here, apartment versus flat, cookie versus biscuit, truck versus lorry, these ones are differences in what? These ones are differences in dialect, the way the language is formed, grammar, vocabulary, and these kind of things. Did you get the difference between accent and dialect? Very good. So I do apologize for speaking too quickly about these things, but as you know that we don't have a lot of time, so we do have to do that. So, okay, coming to the pronunciation differences. That one is the word schedule, the first one, and the second word is the word water. We talked about water. In American English, we pronounce like water, water. We change the T into a flap T. Again, you can call it a flap T if you wish to do some research on it. But if you're not going to call it flap T, this is what they call it in actual pronunciation schools. But if you're not going to do that, just call it like a D, a fast D, you can call it. But in British English, the RP accent, they pronounce it like water, water, water. That beginning is also different. If you focus on the vowel, it's not just the difference in T. In American, it's water, water, like daughter, or what else we have? Top, desktop, the sound, I mean. But in the word water in British English, we have that beginning sound. It's not really like an in American. It's more like of an O sound. O. It's like water. They don't really say daughter. They say daughter. Do. O. Okay. So again, remember that the vowel is also different, not just the what was that? Not just the consonant. Zohal is writing identify. Would you mean by that, Zohal? Identify?
As I mentioned, identify and British, they don't pronounce the T sound. But American pronunciation, we pronounce the T sound.
Mm. The T sound? You mean?
Yeah, identify. They pronounce like that.
Who pronounces like that?
British.
Without the T?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, again, I do, um, I think that's not right, because at least that's not what I've, read. From my understanding, you could say that the word I identify is actually the North American English accent, where they don't say the T. And in British English, at least again coming to the RP, the received pronunciation, they pronounce it like identify with the T. Okay, but I'd love to be corrected. I'd love to be corrected. You can do your research and again let me know. But yeah, based on current understanding that I do have about this, the word identify without the T is more in line with the American accent, the North American accent, but with the T is more in line with the RP or received pronunciation accent of British English, okay? Which is identify with the T. They really, really like their T's, I think, in British English. Okay, the other word is the one above water, and that is the word schedule. Now, of course, in American English, it's pretty easy. We pronounce it like schedule, okay? Schedule. But then you have the word, the same word, but in British English, they don't pronounce it like that. They pronounce like schedule. Listen to me, guys. Schedule. Now, again, it sounds funny, I know, but it is actually pretty common in the UK. So if you go there and you pronounce it as schedule there, they will understand it, but it will be pretty funny to them. But in British English, they pronounce it like schedule. Khatima is saying maybe at the end, British don't pronounce R, right, sir? Yes. In which word are you talking about, Khatima? You mean the word water? Yes. Yeah. In the word water, 100%. In British English, I believe at least from the different accents that I know of, the RP, the Cockney accents, none of them pronounce the R at the end. They just pronounce like water, daughter, all of them without the R. But again, the same way that we had to specify that American English, when we're talking about it, we're talking about US English. When you say British English, remember that we're talking about UK English, because there's something that inside Britain we do have. Okay, not Ireland. I'm not going to upset those people. I think Ireland doesn't want to be called part of Britain, and they're not. Is Scotland, for example, Wales? I think these countries are part of the British Isles or something, so they are connected to British English a little bit. So when we say British English, I'm talking about UK. So the reason I am making this distinction is because when you go to the Scotland or Scotland version of English, I believe they do pronounce the R sometimes. But again, I don't remember it 100%. The Scottish English is not that common, but I think they pronounce the R. Okay, I think they pronounce the R. But in general British English, the one that we're talking about, UK, they don't. Yeah, they don't pronounce the R at the end. Yes, Mabuba, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to say about schedule. SCH in German language, it means like it pronounced sheen or like ish. Maybe it has some roots from German language. I don't know, but I just want to add because in German we have like SCH as a pronounce or as a sound of ish, and yeah, kind of like interesting for me.
110%, 110%, Mabua, you're absolutely right. The reason is because, English is actually a High Germanic language. It is a Germanic language in terms of its roots, but the reason, it's not, all the words are not like that is because some words are not from German roots. Some of them come from French, some of them come from Latin, some of them come from Greek, and the differences are there. But yeah, a big majority of the words do come from the German language. So 100% there is a connection here. You are absolutely right to point that out. Yes, Suhal?
Sir, as you mentioned something, I didn't get that much clearly. It was about the United Kingdom accent with British. These are same.
These are it's kind of like saying well, America is a continent. I think we all know that, right? Or you could say the Americas. There are two of them. We have the South America and we have the North America, something like that. So when we say the American English, the reason I say that it's not as accurate is because Canada is inside it. You know, you when you say American English, then you clearly say that no, American English is not Canadian English. Canadian English is different. So because of that, I'm saying that when you say American, remember that we're talking about US English, the English language that is spoken inside the United States of America. When I said that British English, could mean other things, that is because Great Britain is not one country. Great Britain is actually made up of three different countries. I believe it is Wales, Scotland, and the UK or something like that. So these three countries are there. So when you say British English, then it would mean Scottish English included in that. The English spoken in Wales, the Welsh accent as they call it, that one will also be included. But what we're talking about here, this is purely UK accent. This is actually called the Queen's English, right? The monarch lived in the UK. Of course, she had control over the other ones as well, but I mean, she lived in the UK. So we're saying when we say British English, Queen's English, we're talking about one country specifically. Even inside the same country, you have many, many, differences. So the differences are 100% there. When we are talking about it, we're talking about the general ones. Okay. Now, this could not be more true when you're speaking, than when you're speaking about the American English. US, right? Inside the US, of course, I believe everyone knows that there's a place called New York and Boston and these places. So if you go to Boston, for example, the Boston accent is actually pretty different from the normal American English that you hear in movies, for example, or the one that I'm speaking right now. They in Boston accent, they also don't pronounce the R. So like, this is pretty funny. It's also called a non-rhotic accent. And non-rhotic rhotic accent is an accent that doesn't pronounce the R. It's kind of the same as the British one in its way of treating the R. So one phrase that many people, you could say, teach the Boston accent with is this one. I hope you can see it, guys. This is the phrase that people use when they're teaching the Boston accent to people. So they pronounce it like, of course, in general American, in North American English accent, we just say, park your car in Harvard Yard. All of them are But in Boston accent, they don't do that. In Boston accent, they pronounce it like, park your car in Harvard Yard. Park, park. Okay? Park your car in Harvard Yard. One of the differences that this one has with the British accent that we're talking about is there's the vowel sounds. So in British, it may be more like an O sound, in some of them, but in the Boston accent, that one is not there. So in the Boston accent of the US, they still stick to the same vowels. They say like a ah sound, ah, park, park, instead of park or park in British English. They have a different vowel, but they're also non-rhotic, meaning they don't pronounce the R. Boston accent. It is American English, by the way. So just some differences are there. Okay, so just remember that when we're talking about these things, we're talking about the general ones, and generally speaking, American English is a rhotic variety of the English language, meaning they pronounce the R, and British English, as as a general rule, is a non-rhotic accent or variety of the English language. So they don't pronounce the R. Any other questions? Khatam is saying sometimes in British don't, meaning maybe we don't pronounce the R in between the word, like the word opportunity. I think we do. Opportunity. Oh yeah, you're right. We don't pronounce it there. That is because before the R we have an O, not a U. Okay, so I think the correct spelling of the word is like this. So we have an O, and because of that, I think we don't pronounce it. We can say it as opportunity, so that that sound also differs. Tunity. In American English, you can pronounce it like opportunity with a to sound, not a chew sound. Okay, a to sound is much better. But American English does understand the ch sound as well. One other difference that we, or at least one similarity with this chu and tu sound, is in the word is in the word for the day that comes after Monday. Anyone knows what day that is? The day that comes after Monday? No one?
Maybe Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Like
Nice. Very nice. In American English, we pronounce it like Tuesday. T, t, Tuesday, Tuesday. But in British English, they pronounce it like Tuesday. Ch, ch, Tuesday. A small difference, but we do have it. So the sound of the ch and the t is also present there, the difference. Okay. Yeah, Fatima, exactly like chess sound. Okay, let's move on, everyone, to the next one. So this is the next one. Let's talk about grammar nuances, or again, dialectal differences. So this is again more of a dialectal difference. It's not an accent difference. You're not really talking about how it's pronounced differently. You're talking about how it's used differently, how the language is formed differently. So the first difference we have is in the word gotten God, and this one I believe was mentioned by one of your friends at least when they were talking. In American English, the word get, the verb three of it is gotten, but in British English, the word get, the verb three for it is got. So it's the same as verb two. It's get, got in British English, and it's get, got, gotten in American English. Okay, so just remember that little nasal sound as well we have in American English. We don't say gotten, we don't say gotten, we say gotten, gotten. It's pronounced from the nasal part. Okay, so that's one difference. Another difference is with the preposition we have in here. So this phrase is pretty common. So it's really good to know. In American English, we say on the weekend, on the weekend, on the weekend. But in British English, we say at the weekend, at the weekend. A very small difference, but if you do prefer to have, one of them, if you do prefer to use only one, so I think it's really nice that you remember that. And another difference, this one is not 100% like followed in every place, especially not in formal places. There are formal documents from American English users that use the grammar tense, you could say, from the British English counterpart here, but generally speaking, everyday language, conversational English, American people will use the past simple, to talk about some usages of the present perfect. So they will just say, did you eat today? Did you eat today? It's not wrong, so to speak, but speaking from a, grammarian perspective, from the perspective of a person who loves grammar and a person who really understands grammar, they will tell you that it's better to use the present perfect because you're talking about a past action which is connected to the present. It has a connection to the present. So meaning, have you eaten today is much better than saying, did you eat today? But again, who knows which one is better? It's all about the usage, where you are, who you're talking with, So if you're talking with an American and you say, have you eaten today? Maybe this one will not sound very nice. So for them, did you eat today is much more common. It feels more natural than saying, have you eaten today? Got it? Very good. So these are some grammar nuances or differences in grammar. Okay, let's move on. I believe this is kind of the last point. Yeah, this is the last point. So influence of culture. How have these two different English varieties impacted the world? How have they impacted the culture? So let's talk. The first one is the word, or at least talking about historical influence. When you're talking about historical influence, I don't think anyone, and I mean, I don't think anyone can say that American English has a bigger historical influence than British English. Like, no one can say that. No one can say that, and no one should say that. Because British English, historically speaking, was a much bigger superpower, So it was, as I mentioned before, it was trying to conquer the entire world, So it went to India, it went to this place, it went to that place. So you could say, as written here, British English spread globally during the colonial era. The colonial era, if you're a history buff studying history, you know that it was the time of colonization, where the British, the people, I mean the government, you could say, they went and they tried to conquer the world. They went to every country. They went to India. So that's why yeah, I think Mahatma Gandhi was the one who technically got the independence from the British at that time. So yeah, during the colonial era, British English spread like wildfire. It was pretty big. So that's why, in terms of historical influence, we can say that, yeah, British English is much bigger. But coming to the next one, okay, before we come to the next one, guys, if you remember, I did mention one of your friends asked a question, said, which one is older? American accent or British accent. And I said American accent could be older. Now, again, as I mentioned before, I'm going to say it again. This is my opinion. And I don't exactly remember where I read it, but you do feel free to just go and check it. I myself will check it after the meeting. Um, American accent today, the current accent of American English is closer to the older British English of the older times. That is because when the British, you could say, came to America, they came and they enslaved the people there. They enslaved the population of the U.S. Okay, and when you have masters like slave masters like the British people, and then you have the slaves themselves like the Americans of that time, you need to communicate with each other, right? You need to communicate. So the American people learned how to pronounce. Okay, the American people learned English from the British people of the past. They learned how to pronounce, you know, English the way that the British people of the past did. Okay, so the way that the British people of the past pronounced English, American people learned that. And then, as you do know, the British people, they at the time they were like the richest people in the world. So they were from a higher class of society, and the Americans were like basically slaves. Like um, they were not from a higher level of society. They were low class, you could say. So British English, or at least the people who used it, the British people themselves, they decided to be different. Okay? They decided to be what? They decided to be different from the poor people, or as they like to call it, they decided to be different from the peasants, people who are not really rich and they're like, just living on the streets and stuff. So how would they be different in the way they speak? So they then made their English, their variety of English, non-rhotic. Okay, they made it what? They made it non-rhotic, meaning they removed the R. The British people, when American people learned English from them, they learned how to pronounce like them. Then the British people said no. So from now on, you continue this way, but we, the richer side, we are going to remove the R, and our pronunciation is going to be different from you. And the reason why we call it, QE, as I mentioned before, Queen's English, that is because it was meant for the richer people in that society. So based on this understanding, everyone, uh, British English is older than American English, 100%, because it is English. It's from the name England. It is their language, but the way it is pronounced, the accent is much different case. It's a much different story, you could say. American English today, in my idea at least, is closer to the older version of British English. Current British English, when they don't pronounce the R, that one is actually newer. Okay, that is actually a newer style of speaking. In the past, people did pronounce the R, but British people changed it. So in terms of that, you could say that yeah, American English pronunciation is older than British English pronunciation. But again, I would like to be corrected because I don't exactly remember the source that I read about this. Maybe it wasn't true. Maybe it was just a person who made the story. But if this is correct, it does sound logical, to be honest. It does sound logical. So you could say that maybe American English is, older than British English in terms of accent, pronunciation at least. Okay, so coming to the media and entertainment. So in the media and entertainment, of course, both of them have bigger impacts. We all know that. We have, for example, Harry Potter, the series, the franchise of movies and the books, for example. We have the Beatles, the band. I think that is a British band. And shows, we have series and TV shows like the Sherlock Holmes. We have The Crown. So these are all British English content. Okay, uh, they have big impact, 100%, 100%. But I don't care how big, I don't care how big Harry Potter is. I don't care how big, the Beatles were. If you really think about it today in the media and entertainment industry, American English has dominated the industry. So it's like the biggest thing. Okay. You have Hollywood, the entire industry, Hollywood, the movie making industry, is American English content, you could say. Of course, they produce British English movies, Australian English movies as well, but it's primarily an American English company, you could even say, or industry. So this one, for sure, we all know that it's like producing like basically the entire catalog of movies that you see every year, the most famous ones and of course the successful ones. Disney, for example, I think everyone has heard of Disney. Everyone has seen animations, movies from Disney. That's an American company. And global music stars like Taylor Swift, like she's shocking the world. She's going to countries, and countries' economies are changing. You have Eminem, you could say the biggest rap star maybe in history. These are all American, English users, and their content, their music, their art is, what makes American English today more famous and more popular, at least in the media and entertainment industry. And if you think about something else that I haven't written here, but if you think about the technology world, if you think about the business world today, again, both of them are dominated by American English. Okay, so in terms of technology, for example, we have Microsoft, an American company. We have Nvidia, we have Google, we have Apple. All of these companies are American, companies, and they provide American English. So if you're using a laptop right now, check your laptop's default language. It is set to English US or English United States. You're using Windows, right? So your operating system, it comes from Microsoft, an American company. So again, the default language mostly is English United States. The keyboards you have on your phones and everything, so the predictive texting, the auto corrections, most of these are American English centered, and then of course it goes to British English. So in terms of that, we can say that yeah, the technology world, the business world, these two are also dominated by American English. But when we said that both of them have bigger influences and both of them, of course, have you know impacts on the world that other English varieties don't, like Canadian English is not as big, Australian English is not as big, Scottish English is not as big. That is because they are not as big. So that's it. But to give you what I mean by that, look at these two examples at the end, everyday examples. English from the American media and English from the British media, they are so big that they are becoming household names. They are making things common in your house, you without and you don't even realize it. So like as an example, this one, mind the gap. Mind the gap is a phrase, and it became famous through the London Underground, and maybe not all over the world, but if you at least are in the Western world, if you go there and you say mind the gap, people understand what you're talking about, like without anything else. These phrases are just you know they're now part of the British English culture, you could say. And this one, I believe most of you know know this one. Friends is a very, very famous, American English TV show and TV series, you could say. And in there we have a character named Joey, and he has this line, he has this phrase to everyone, and he says, "How you doing? how you doing. So the way he says it, like, that is pretty iconic. If you say it in Asia, if you say it in other countries, if you say how you doing without the G at the end, you don't say how you doing or how are you doing. You say it how you doing. People normally understand what you mean. So this is the an example of how big of a cultural difference these two English varieties have on the world. Yeah, and I think we are done with that. And key takeaway, everyone, that you should remember is this one: both varieties enrich the English language. Both varieties are the reasons you could say that English is what it is today. Without British English, American English would not be here. Without American English, British English would have been lost a long time ago. So like both of these two are working hand in hand to improve the language and of course, keep it alive for generations to come. Um, we did talk a lot, so but I do apologize for that, but we do have a Q&A session here. Any questions you may have, I'm going to try my best to answer, or at least do research on and then provide answers for you. So if you do have questions, please raise your hand, and you may ask. Oh, that's really good. Oh, we have, I think, one. Sorry. Yes, Mabuba, tell us.
Yeah, teacher, thank you for your patience to disclare everything for us. My question is kind of relatable to your idea. I think you have a lot of experience in this case. I just want to know what is the perspective of other ones about the British accent. I have seen a lot of videos in Reels, in Instagram, and TikTok. Whenever a person wants to speak in British accent, they're gonna judge them with their accents, and they will say like, "Oh my gosh, your accent's so silly," and other things. So, what do you think about the perspective of other ones, and why they find the British accent really funny or kind of serious? I don't know. Yeah, I'm just curious to know.
Yeah. Well, again, pretty nice example. I think you guys may have seen the reels and the Facebook memes about the ball of water example. When they see a British person, they just say, "You know what? Can you say this one?" And then they start laughing at the person. So 100%, yes, that is true. It is happening. It is something that shouldn't happen, to be honest. You know, everyone, to be honest, like when you're speaking of how people pronounce, if you're speaking about accents, every person has an accent. Every person has their own accent. Every person has their own version of the accent that they're speaking. So accent is kind of like your fingerprint. Like it's special to you. It's unique to you. So making fun shouldn't happen. It doesn't matter if you're a British English user, if you're an American English user, or another one maybe. It's not good to make fun of that. But in my idea, the reason why this is happening is because of the cultural aspect. Uh, this slide that we just talked about. So how big is it now? If you talk about it historically, in the past, if a person would pronounce it like that, it would have been okay, because at that time British English was the bigger variety. But right now, we all know that American English is the bigger variety of the two. If you think of American English and if you think of British English, most people in the world have heard American English more than they've heard British English, and that does play a big role here. When people make fun of the bottle of water example, so the reason they find it funny is because it's very unusual for them. Like they've never heard of it. They've never heard of it. So like the majority of people have heard that as bottle of water. And then when you see a person with the Cockney accent of the British English and they come and they say it as bottle of water, then it sounds funny because it's not common. So it's all about which. Mhm. Yeah, it's all about
مالك
which.
كاردر ولا
Yeah, so it's all about which is more common. Okay, it's all about which is more common. If American English was the one that wasn't very common, so pronouncing the word or the phrase like bottle of water would be the funny one. But right now, because American English is the one that is bigger, so it doesn't receive a lot of jokes at it, you could say. But yeah, but British English does receive it. That is the main difference.
So thank you so much. As the last question, I just want to say you mentioned that every single person has their own and accurate pronunciation. I mean, like how long it takes to change our pronunciation? Is it or it's possible? I mean, like I just want to know. Like I want to learn the British accent, but currently I'm speaking in American because I've heard a lot of films and I've spoken with other ones. So, is it possible to change your pronunciation and how long it takes?
Yeah, a very good question again, but this is more of a subjective case for different people. And I'll say why. So it is 100% possible to change it, but who can change it, how much time it needs, that is different for different people. So if you are following the industry, the filmmaking industry, 100%, like Hollywood and these kind of people, so the people there, the actors there, like they do this for a living. They're really good at that, and for them it takes about maybe 4 or 3 weeks, to change and get into a good accent. Um, I think you guys may know Tom Holland. If you're watching Marvel movies, like Tom Holland, the new actor they've chosen for the Spider-Man, movie series, you could say. He, for example, is actually a British speaker. He's actually a British English user. But when he came to the Marvel and he is playing Spider-Man, and of course we all know that the character of Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and he's a kid from New York. So, I think New York or no Brooklyn, I think specifically, they call it that, or Queens. To be honest, I'm not sure, but the Peter Parker is supposed to be an American character. So because of that, Tom Holland had to go through accent training, and they get accent coaches, and they work with them for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then after that they are pretty good and they can speak in that accent. Tom Holland, for example, spent so long in the US and so long on his accent for the Spider-Man movies, and it affected him so much that when he went back to Britain, I think there's an interview of him talking about this. When he went back to Britain and he was asked to do a TV commercial, he was pronouncing things in American English, and then the people there, the producers for the commercial, you could say, they told him that, hey, by the way, you're from Kingston, you're from here, like you're from, the British countries, you could say. So don't use American. Why are you using American here? So that's how big of a difference it makes for some people. Another example for this same kind of story where the person nearly forgot her own accent, that is Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, the series, and she also played Enola Holmes, sister of Sherlock Holmes. Um, so Millie Bobby Brown, the same thing happened when she came to, I think, the US for filming, Stranger Things. She had to take an American accent, and again, she has been doing the American accent for so long and for so many movies that now she is kind of having problems going back to British accent. When she goes to British accent, she has problems remembering how to pronounce some of the words. So for some people, it's very hard to juggle between the different accents. But again, why did I say it's for some of them? Because if you know some comedians, for example, Trevor Noah, he, for example, for him, changing accent is like, choosing which, I don't know, which movie to watch that day. So it's very easy for him. The moment he's doing it, like he's doing a stand-up comedy in front of 100,000 people maybe, and he just says, okay, now I'm just gonna go to British accent, and it works for him. He goes to British accent, he goes to African accent, he goes to American accent, like just jumping through them without even thinking that much. And that's all because of practice. So it is possible 100% to change it, but it takes time, and 100% it takes training. You need maybe trainings, you need courses. If you don't have a lot of people who can work with you, right now you can use AI. AI can help you, like Copilot, for example. You can go to it and say that, for example, help me practice my Indian accent. I actually did that for one day, and it kind of, uh, you could say, destroyed my accent a little bit. So like, but the point is that AI can now do that. AI can now be your accent coach as well. So it's something that you can use. We do also have books, like if you're interested in American English, we have the American English training or pronunciation training. There's a book with about um, like 5 CDs of audio, so it's a really good one. And the same thing goes for British English. We also have a lot of content for that. So yeah, to answer your question shortly and briefly, it is possible, but it is different for different people, and it's also about how much time you actually spend. If you don't have anything else to do, you're just, at home every day, you're practicing different accents. It's very easy to change it. But for me, for example, I have to teach every day, so I don't have enough time to change it. So for me, I'm stuck right now with the American accent. If I change it, it's going to be pretty hard, and I do have to actually pay attention to it. So that doesn't really work in my, within my schedule, you could say. Yeah. Masuma, do you have a question?
Well, I don't have any question. I just wanted to say, to continuation of the Mahbuba question, that we always judge the British accent. I think it's not just the British accent; it's in every accent that we judge. If we um, remember the TikTok video that has recently came out, and there's a guy who lives in Germany and currently came to Afghanistan, and the guy just had a weird and cute accent, Persian accent, and in TikTok it's very famous if you see it. And the funny thing is, he is one of our relatives, and he has been for 21 years in Germany. So environment has a lot of impact in accents, even in his native language.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna have to check that. What should I search for on TikTok?
Well, I'm gonna send you the link.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's really nice. Sarah, tell us.
Just I share my idea that there is a lot of accent in English, like a 160, and we cannot judge everybody. Everybody has their own language accents. Like myself, I checked out with the AI, and it says that I have an Arabic accent, and I was shocked how it's happening. And one of the trends viral videos that if we ask about like it's a video, if you ask a person about the British or American English, they'll just jump in or hanged in one place and cannot move. Like this is so hard to judge this two English.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, Sarah. You're absolutely right. There are a lot of accents, and the point is to respect them. The point is to respect all of them, and just do, or at least follow the one that you like. Okay, follow the one that draws you in, basically. If you like it, it's okay. Raihana. um I think we don't have her.
No, teacher, I don't have any questions. Just I don't know how my.
Yeah, it's okay, don't worry, don't worry. Okay, everyone. So if you don't have any more questions, then thank you so much for joining in. I had a very good time talking about this. I hope you did too. The session was supposed to last for 30 minutes, but now it's 9:41. So I don't think that's really 30 minutes. That's about an hour and 20 minutes, maybe. But thank you. Thank you so much for being here till the end. And have a nice time. And do follow us for more information. We will share in the group as well. And any more English classes or even, English clubs that do come in the future, we would love to have you guys. So thank you and have a nice time. Goodbye.
Great time.